Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we've got Louise on, who is a model. Hi, Louise.
Hiya, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Well, I am a model, and I guess now as well that kind of coincides with being an influencer, which is obviously quite new. And I've been modeling for the last 25 years. I've seen the industry change a lot, for the better. I'm also a mum of 3 and moved house literally 2 days ago, so I'm living out of boxes right now.
Oh, blimey. So how did you sort of get into the industry?
So my mum's friend was a model in the 60s, and she said to me when I was about 14, she realised that I was quite tall and slim and had high cheekbones, and she just said, you should go and see if you'll get taken on by a modelling agency. And so one day I went into an agency and they turned me down, which as a 14-year-old, I was absolutely devastated. But whilst I was drowning my sorrows in a coffee shop, somebody from another modelling agency spotted me and took me on there and then. So it's kind of weird how it all happened. And then from that, I was entered into a competition. It was called the European New Face Model of the Year in 1995. And from that came first in England and then runner-up for the UK. And then because of that, I know it's crazy. And then because of that, got a contract with the modelling agency. And the rest is history, I guess. I mean, lots of, it's been a roller coaster ride, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned you've seen a lot of change in the industry. What are some of the things that have changed for you?
Well, first of all, you don't have to be the standard model size. Like when I first started in the 90s, you had to be a certain height, you had to be a certain size. And if you were a centimetre or half a centimetre off, you were sent home and you had to work out or go on a diet to get back to that perfect size, which was really tricky. As I started when I was 14, I hadn't, gone through all of my puberty yet. So I was still growing myself. So that was quite tough. And from the back of that, I got an eating disorder, which so many girls did. But now, modelling agencies are so much more open to taking, men, women of all sizes, all ages, heights, colour, like any, ability to anything. It's which is fantastic. It's so much more open to everybody now, whereas before it was like a very, very strict and tight, regimented structure, which did affect a lot of people, and still does in some respects. But it has definitely, the rules have relaxed a lot more, and I think that does go hand in hand with social media as well, which I think is fantastic. It's about time, really.
So it's definitely a lot more open, and when you think of models now, you don't necessarily think of the stereotype of a model. But how has that social media world sort of impacted what you do? Is it a massive difference?
Well, yeah. I mean, for me personally, I was always told that from a very young age, your modelling career basically stops at around age 28. And you can't work if you are over a size 10. So I was convinced that was going to be my path. If someone had said to me back then, you'll still be working as a 40-year-old, a mother of 3, a size 14, I would not ever believe them. But with the power of social media, it's given me a chance, well, not just me, thousands of other models, a chance to kind of still work in an industry that they love, represent a demographic that is huge. The older women, a more mature women want to see women they can relate to rather than an 18-year-old that's a size 10. We don't all relate to that. And because of social media, it's given everybody a voice. And people are speaking up and saying, I don't want to just see your traditional model. We want to see, somebody with wrinkles, or somebody with cellulite, or somebody with, a disability. Like, there is so much more now to modeling than just looking like, your average Kate Moss. It's completely and utterly changed. And for me, I'm so grateful for that, because it is my income. It is my job. And I'm getting booked now on jobs that are for, like the whole pro age and fashion, that are, for women that want to still look good and feel good in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Just because we are over a certain age doesn't mean that we want to be forgotten about. We're the demographic that actually has the money to spend on these things now. So it's nice to go to that, I guess, to the consumers.
Yeah, that's a massive market that for years they kind of just left alone, didn't they?
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. And it's, things are still evolving in that part of that kind of beauty sector now, which again, I'm really grateful for. But, how many times have we seen a 25-year-old advertise anti-wrinkle cream, or an 18-year-old advertising anti-cellulite cream? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And the thing is that the consumer, are extremely intelligent, and they're not buying it. They would rather buy a beauty product for anti-aging, or pro-age, as I like to call it, on a model that is their age, so they can go, oh, okay, well, if it's actually targeted for women that look like their own age, it's a no-brainer, really.
You spoke earlier about your first getting into the industry, going to an agent, and then being found in another coffee shop. How much for new models is it a grind at the beginning? Just sort of going to agent after agent and rejection. What's sort of that experience like?
It's really tough. When I first started in the 90s, it was very, very different. Obviously, for a start, it was before mobile phones. It was before Google Maps. It was before Zoom, everything. So not only did you have to be a certain size, but you had to go on castings, which, as a new face, your agency would just send you to so many castings. I was going to about 15 to 20 castings a day, walking around London with my A to Z, trying to find out where I'm going. Sometimes the client wouldn't even be there. I would come home absolutely exhausted, feet bleeding, absolutely starving, because at the same time you're trying to not gain any weight. And then the rejection that comes with it, it basically goes hand in hand with the job. And you have to, it takes a while, but it's taken a long time for me to get quite thick-skinned with rejection and understanding that it's not personal. I'm just not the right fit for their brand. But when you're, 15, 16 and you're exhausted walking around London and going to casting, and, a lot of these clients weren't particularly friendly. People got away with a lot more back then because there was no social media and there was no kind of outing people. So there was probably a little bit more bitchiness. I've had a few instances where I've been spoken to like absolute crap, which now people wouldn't accept it.
So the industry has, not just for the models sort of like looks wise, but also just mentally has grown a lot healthier for them.
Absolutely. Like, I did a shoot last week. I did a TV commercial last week, and there was an actual person on set, and I've never had this before. And it was a diversity and inclusion representative who said to me at the beginning of the shoot, I'm here to make sure that you feel comfortable in every, all day. And not just me, everybody that was on the shoot. Like, if anyone felt uncomfortable or didn't feel included or any bullying, then there's a person on set who would literally look. It's like having HR on set, which is fantastic. This has never happened before. And there's been, so many instances that I've been on when I have felt uncomfortable, or there has been some kind of derogatory comments that in an office you would flag it, but when you're on set, it's not, because it's not, it's not something that people think about until now. And for that, I'm really, really grateful, because there are so many young girls out there that are coming into this industry and not knowing what it's all about. And it is much better now than it ever has been before. And it does sound awful, I'm saying it's a great industry. I'm so grateful for it. But, there have been instances and cases where, photographers have become quite sleazy, or a client, kind of bullying you in front of everybody because, they say that you're literally too fat when you're a size 10, which has happened to me. And now that wouldn't happen. And that is fantastic.
Obviously, they're starting to become more and more. But if anyone was in that situation, is there any sort of websites or agencies that they can go to talk about that?
Well, I think agencies now act a lot more like parents. Agents are like parents. They give life to models. Without the agent, you're not really a model. And they always say to the models that they take on, please tell us anything that happens. But also, I think, again, because of social media, someone could just write something and out someone quite quickly. And I think everyone's quite afraid of, being tagged in a post on Instagram that basically makes them sound bad. I don't know if there's a website in particular that just focuses on that type of thing. That's a good question. If there is, I'd like to know about it. I wish
we'll try and find one. So how does the agency model relationship work? What's that like, and how do you go about building one?
First of all, I think it's really important to have trust with your agency. I mean, there are agencies that you could be signed with, but not necessarily trust your booker, or not get on with your booker. And I think it's really important to have a good relationship with them. So they understand what kind of modeling you want to do and where you want to go. I've had fantastic relationships with all of my bookers, and the ones that maybe I felt like, I don't know where this is going, it's very important to say, look, can we have a chat? And agents do that as well. If they feel like a girl is maybe going off the, kind of partying too much, before COVID, obviously, the agent would call in the model and say, let's have a chat. And they are very caring, and they want to nurture the girls and make sure that they are at their absolute best. Because obviously when you go to castings in a job, you're booked on how you look. So you have to, you can't turn up looking a wreck, basically, or, having no sleep or something, which, back in the day when you were younger, you could probably get away with it, but there's no way I could get away with it now. Yeah. So there is a really good, in my experience, and generally other models that I speak to, the relationships between models and agents is quite special. It should be special. There's a lot of trust there, which is lovely.
You spoke earlier about usually, it's not the case for yourself, but the life of a model sort of expires at 28. They don't really go on to do much after that. But and I assume a lot of people throw everything they have into modelling career. So what sort of happens, or what do they do once they stop modelling? Do girls generally go into work for agencies, or do they just find jobs elsewhere in the industry, or just elsewhere in general?
Yeah, I mean, I did do that route for a while. So when I became pregnant with my eldest son, so at the time I was 30, and my agency at the time said, "Oh, well, you're pregnant now, so that's it. You're done." And this was before I had any social media presence. So I was like, oh my God, okay, what the hell do I do now? So because I love the industry, I actually got into photography, and I worked as a photographer for a while, which was great. But then there are lots of other models that I know that have gone into styling or makeup, or worked for an agency, or started up their own beauty line. I feel like most people I know have stayed in the creative field. But again, because of social media, a lot of the girls that thought their career was over are now coming back, which is fantastic. There are so many more magazines and publications and beauty brands that want to see more mature models. And so I know one lady at my agency, she's called Nikki Griffin. She started her modelling career at 54 and she's absolutely nailed it. Like, she's done incredible campaigns. And she started at 54, which, you know, is incredible. That would, you know, I don't think that would happen, you know, a decade ago.
Speaking of the good social media has done for, you know, the modelling industry, there are now a lot of people that now want to go into or more than ever want to go into the modelling industry. What's it like competition wise? Because loads of especially in fashion modelling, loads and loads of companies now use the influencers to model their clothes for them. Is it becoming harder to then get from that level into agency level?
This is a bit of a conundrum, really, because when the whole social media thing exploded, I saw that my bookings were going down because I didn't have a social media presence. And at first I was like, I'm not doing social media because this is my job and people know who I am, and if they want to book me, they can. But then, because I was literally losing work to people that weren't necessarily signed by a modelling agency, but they had a really, really big social media following and they were getting booked. And that's when agencies realised, okay, we need to have a influencer division. Because this seems to be taking over, and obviously it worked for the brands because they were getting these huge shout outs for, you know, with thousands and thousands of followers, and it worked for them. So it did annoy a lot of models, and they were like, okay, well then we need to up the game, which is exactly what I had to do, and kind of almost like rebrand myself. And there are other girls that I know that have done that, and it has worked. And so it depends on the brand if they want to use a model that's, you know, a professional and knows how to move in front of a camera, which does make a difference, or if they want to use an influencer that doesn't have much modelling experience. Because what people don't realise is that there is an art behind being on set and being able to move in front of a camera. It's very different to kind of like pose in front of your bathroom mirror to being on set in front of, you know, 10, 20, 30 people. It can be nerve-wracking and terrifying at first if you're not used to it. And I have been on photo shoots with influencers and models, and the photographer is a bit like, oh God. Like trying to explain to the influencer how to move. And I think, you know, a lot of influencers have their one signature look that they're used to doing selfies with. But when you're on set and you're trying to create, you know, incredible pictures and different movements, and it's very, very different. So if anything, that kind of does work in the model's favor, which is, you know,
those sort of skills of being on set. Did you, when you were younger, have anyone to sort of teach you, or did you just have to more or less just grind at it day in, day out until you felt more comfortable doing what you were doing?
I had literally no idea what I was doing, what to do. I actually thought that the photographer would tell me exactly what to do with every single move. But that's not the case. A model needs to get on set, familiarize herself with the product she's wearing, make shapes with her body to show the garments, making shapes is so important, more than you think, actually. And it's something that I learned over time, but I remember very, very vividly, I did a photo shoot. It was one of my first photo shoots in Palma, in Mallorca, which used to be a hotspot for shooting catalogue. And there were loads of other teams there shooting, and it was my first job on location. And I saw another girl on set, and she was just moving in a really elegant, brilliant, almost like dance away. She was just, every shot, she would just change the way that she moved, and she would work the clothes in a way that it was magical. And I was like, oh, I need to do it. It's not up to the photographer. I need to do it. And luckily, I do have a bit of a dancing background, so I could move, as in I wasn't really stiff, and I could do positions that looked quite graceful and natural. So then I just practiced. In front of the mirror, and every shoot that I had, I would just try out new moves. And then over the years, and over the amount of, shoots that I've had, it just becomes like second nature. And like now I just don't even think about it. And obviously I've got certain moves that I always go back to. And I didn't realize how much I had evolved in that until I was on set with influencers who haven't had that experience. And it wasn't until then I was like, I'm actually quite good at this, actually. Like, I know what I'm doing.
Always reassuring.
Yeah, it's quite nice, actually. But it does take a while. And there wasn't anyone that briefed me on what to do at all. I remember one time a photographer getting really annoyed, and I remember him kind of going, are you going to do anything else? I was like, oh, God, right, sorry. Okay, well, I'll try something else. And, it's trial and error with any job, I guess. But maybe there is more training now, but when I did it, there was no training.
Have you got any sort of tips for, loosening up, being a bit more relaxed when you first get on set? Anything that you do?
I think it's really important to get a full-length mirror and practice moves. Just practice moving, even if it's just switching your weight from one leg to another, seeing hands on hips, seeing what angles work for you. It's just seeing what works, and it does take time. And obviously before, again, when I started, it was film. Oh my God, I sound so old, but we used film. It wasn't digital, so you couldn't even see what you were shooting. Whereas now you do a shot, you see it on a screen, and you just think, oh, actually that doesn't work well. I'm going to change my leg there, so you can see what you're doing. Mm. Whereas with the film, you couldn't see anything, and then the shoot will come out in the magazine. You're like, oh my God, what is that? Whereas now, I think that does work in our favour. We can see things, or the photographer can show us the screen and say, you see this image, you see this shape. Can you do this again? But can you switch your hand there and look over there? And so that really does help. I forgot the rest of your question now. Sorry, I feel like I've gone off on a tangent.
No, it's okay. Just any tips for, loosening up?
Right, yeah. Confidence is key.
You answered it with the full-length mirror, to be honest.
Yeah, well, and it does. And also, most photography studios will have music playing. So if you want to feel a little bit more comfortable on set, ask them to play music that makes you feel good. Like usually, if people say to me, "What do you want to listen to?" If I need something if I need like really, really high energy, and perhaps I haven't had much sleep because my kids have been keeping me up the night before, I always go for something like Beyonce, because I'm just like, right, I'm just going to channel her, and that does help with the confidence and just going for it, really.
So what's an average day for you like as a model?
Every day is different. Like every shoot can be different. You can do, for example, an e-commerce shoot, which is quite boring, to be honest, but it's work, but it's, in front of a white canvas, a white colorama, and you're shooting 40 to 50 shots a day. And it's all, it's a bit monotonous, but it's work, and there is a lot of e-commerce around there. And you could do that and then go, obviously before COVID, I've had shoots where I'm, shooting on a remote island in Thailand on a boat with dolphins, and it's been, you just think, wow, how am I here? And then you can have other jobs where it's runway or catalogue. And, I was lucky to be in the industry where there were lots of trips. So I would be away a lot. This is obviously before I had children, but you would go to Cape Town, and then you go on to South Africa, and then Miami, and then Morocco, and Thailand, and it just became the norm. And you would bump into people that you knew because everyone was going to the same places to shoot. And that was like, we call it the good old days. I really hope those days come back. Whereas now a lot of it can be in a studio, which for me works because it's great for the kids. You know, I can't suddenly be away for a week here and a week there. I wouldn't want to do that. So I feel like the industry has evolved with me, which is nice.
That worked out.
It has worked out really well. And then there's, you know, you can do an editorial story for a magazine, which is always really fun because the styling is always really good. And the photography is fantastic. And that's when I feel like real, like, creative vibes are alive there in the studio. And I love those shoots.
So how important is it to build a brand within a certain sort of industry within modelling?
What you mean, like personally?
Yeah, so do you specialise in certain things? So you might specialise in a certain type of fashion, maybe?
Well, I know that I'm not, I'm a commercial girl, so I'm not very editorial, which used to really annoy me, but now I've made my peace with it. So I guess, it all depends on the client. Like, sometimes I get booked for jobs and I think, really they think I'm good for them? That's crazy. Okay, well, fine, let's go with that. So it really does vary. But I guess for me, I think because of having, you know, not that my social media following is massive, you know, but it's growing and there's good engagement. And I think when clients see that and they know that models are going to do behind the scenes stories and tag, and, you know, that I think that's quite exciting for a brand and a client to kind of have that. I don't know if I've answered your question properly.
No, you have.
And what would be some of the personality traits that you see in yourself and other models that really help you thrive in this industry?
Confidence, and there's no time to be shy in this industry. I've learned that from a very young age. I mean, as I said, I was 14 when I started. I was still a child. And I was going into studios with, you know, people that were 10 years, 20 years older than me. And I was a very, very shy child indeed. Like, I don't think I actually spoke till I was 12. And I think being that shy, and I guess because I was told to lose weight, being a 14-year-old, that kind of really, it kind of stays with you. And so I was going into these photographic studios already feeling self-conscious and shy, and that would shine, well, not even shine through, that would come through in the photographs and my energy on set. Whereas obviously over the years and over the experience I've had, and obviously getting comfortable in like having that confidence and energy on set is key. Like, it's needed. And it just makes the whole shoot go smoothly, and it makes you get rebooked. You know, it's like with any job, you want to work with somebody that gives something back and gives you some kind of, energy and just pizzazz. You know,
would you say it was the modelling that really helped develop your confidence?
I think yes, but I also think that the things that happen in my own personal life have helped my confidence. I think my husband's a key part of my confidence. Like, he's really behind me in whatever I do, whenever I'm having like a wobbly moment. You know, I'm human. Of course, I go through days I'm like, oh, I'm so disgusting. And, you know, he is always extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? Oh my God, it's into my tongue. He's very, oh my God, what's that word when you're just really kind and encouraging.
There we go.
There you go. I am blonde. He's really encouraging, and I also think becoming a mother has given me more confidence, because you just realise that, you know, you're just not going to take any shit in age as well. Like, sorry, can I swear on this podcast?
Of course you can.
Ah, wicked. Yeah, I think a lot of things. I think age, experience, becoming a mother, having a great husband, and yeah, I guess, you know, getting rebooked on jobs, you realise that you're doing quite a good job. And then also, before social media, like, I literally joined Instagram 4 years ago, and for 20 years, I've been modelling for 25 years, but say for 21 years, I never told anybody what I did for a living. Because I was worried about getting judged, because people do judge you when you say that you're a model. It's very bizarre, but they do. Especially when you're dating, you know, everyone loves it. Oh, I've got a date with a model, and it's pathetic. And so I never told anybody what I did, and nobody ever saw my portfolio. It was all very hidden until social media, because I had to basically literally put food on the table. I had to up my game. I had to keep up with everybody else. And because of that, seeing lovely comments on some of my pictures has given me confidence as well. And that I never thought would happen. I actually thought people would maybe do the opposite and be like, oh, you know, she's full of herself. But that has also given me a bit of confidence, because I've never experienced that before. The only people that saw my pictures were people in my industry that, you know, are used to seeing lovely pictures or have seen better on other girls. But yeah, I was very, very private about it, because I didn't want, you know, the stigma that goes with being a model. But I must admit that has boosted my confidence as well.
That's a massive change then, to go from, you know, not telling anyone to being very out there on Instagram. And your reels absolutely crack me up when they pop up.
Yeah, do you know what? I was terrified. I actually text my closest family and mates, and I said, look, you're going to be seeing a lot more stuff on Instagram. I said, I'm not self-obsessed. I just need to do it for my work. And they were all like, Louise, you're just marketing your business. It's fine. Like, if you sold cars, you'd put cars on your Instagram, but you sell yourself, so of course you're going to do that. But I was terrified, and there are still some times where I post a selfie on my Instagram and I literally cringe at pressing, you know, share, and I'm like, oh god. But then I get pleasantly surprised at, you know, the people that are like, oh, you know, lovely, that's great, where's that top from, where's that from, I love your makeup. And it's really nice. And even like, I did a makeup tutorial recently, and I was really surprised the amount of women that thanked me or said I bought the whole thing, because we've never been taught how to do our makeup. I guess because I've been in the industry for so long, it's just second nature to me, and I just think that other women know how to wear bronzer or know how to do eyeliner, but some don't, and it's really nice for me to share that knowledge. Yeah, it's just really nice. It's social media. I think, you know, a lot of people have issues with it. I really like it, and you know, it's nice to make people laugh as well with the reels. You know, I just got to the point where I just don't give a crap anymore. You know, the
voiceovers are bang on. Honestly, how many takes does that take? You can say one.
Well, what I do, if there's one that is a lot of audio and I've got to say it without any breaks, I will listen to the audio kind of over and over and over before I shoot it, and then I'll just give it a go. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I don't really have the time to kind of reshoot reels all the time. But my kids always get in them and, Mum, you doing a TikTok? I'm like, oh. So I have to do it quickly, and so I would listen to the same audio over and over and over, and then hopefully nail it in the first kind of two filmings. Like I did one, I don't know if you saw, we've just moved house, and I did one yesterday, basically mocking my husband.
Yes, I did. I saw that.
Which so many women were like, "Oh my god, this is spot on," and that took Yeah, that was the second time I shot it. Yeah. So, yeah.
So what are some of the biggest positives for you in the modeling industry?
For me personally, I've had my biggest campaigns now, which I never thought would happen. I always dreamed of doing like these big beauty campaigns in my 20s, thinking it would happen then. And then when I obviously hit 28, when I was, thought, oh, that's it. And then obviously when I hit 30 and had my first child, and I was told, that's it, your career's done. There was a part of me that was like, but I haven't done what I wanted to do yet in this industry. And now I feel like I can tick that box. Last year, or was it 2 years ago now, I was asked to be one of the Max Factor faces, which was incredible. And then just recently, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'll say it anyway, because I think I can. I just shot the John Frieda hair commercial, which is coming out in spring 21. And it blows my mind, because I just think I never thought that would happen. And weirdly, both of those jobs happened because they saw something on my Instagram and then got in touch with my agency. So that is the power of social media. I could be working, if I wasn't on social media, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what I'd still be on, my agency's modeling books, but I probably would just be a face in a sea of faces. Whereas with the power of social media, you have your own marketing skills and tools, and I've realized its power now and how it does actually work, and I'm really grateful for it.
And on the other side of that, what are some of the less favorable aspects you've about the industry?
I guess it's still just hurt when you don't get a job that you really want. I was up for a really big job that my agency said, you're like 99% confirmed, and it was a huge job. And I was in Sainsbury's with my 3 kids, and an email came through, and it was from my agency, and I got really excited, like, move it! And then it was like, yeah, they've gone with somebody else. And I literally, and because I was with my kids, I didn't want to let on that I was really upset. So I was just in Sainsbury's, just like, just buy whatever you want, I don't care. And that's a hard part, to still deal with rejection. Even though I've been in the industry for so long, and I've had so much rejection over the years, it does get easier, but then at the same time, it still hurts. I'd probably get over it a lot quicker, but it still does hurt. And I guess before COVID, I was working away quite a bit in Manchester. And so I missed a lot of bedtime stories, and I would come home and they'd already be in bed. And that was quite tough. But I mean, that's just personal to me. I mean, in actual like industry itself, I quite like it, to be honest. I mean, there's not any more, not that I've experienced, but I don't get any more kind of like, oh, she's a bit fat, or oh, she's a bit this, which did happen before, but they'd say it to your face.
Oh God.
Or they'd say it, as if you weren't in the room. So that doesn't happen anymore. And I don't do castings anymore unless they are request castings. And even now, because of COVID, you can do Zoom castings, which is great. So there's less having to go from place to place to place around London. So that's nice. I mean, it has definitely got better. And I think it's a much safer place for young girls to be now. I mean, I'm sure there's still lots of stuff that goes on that probably isn't so great, but in my experience, I think it's definitely got better, and I'm happy to still be in it.
Mm. So we'd like to talk a little bit about salary expectations, or what people can expect to earn. So we went away and looked for some average figures, and I'm sure you can imagine it was quite difficult with modelling because it just varies so wildly.
Yeah,
and especially with social media now, because social media models sometimes get paid in clothing maybe, or they get brand deals where they get sent clothing all year. But it seemed to range from about £40 an hour right up to, in the thousands. Does that sort of sound right to you?
I've never done it by hour. So it's a day rate. And generally, if you're shooting an editorial, it's not very much money at all. And actually, what a lot of people don't know is the models that you see in Vogue, they don't get paid anything. Even Kate Moss doesn't get paid anything for Vogue, but it doesn't matter because it's Vogue.
Right.
You get in Vogue, you've opened doors to a career because you are in Vogue. So you can get paid nothing for Vogue, and then you can get paid up to, I don't know. Well, again, like this, the industry changes all the time. But when I was in my, I guess my peak of before COVID and before lots of e-commerce was around, you can shoot catalogue, and you can get up to like £7,000 a day.
Wow.
Or even more. And then if you do an advertorial, you could get. You could get up to like 50 grand a day.
Wow.
It really, really, really varies. What's happening now though is with brands and using influencers, well, a lot of influencers that might not have an agency and might not understand the rates. And the thing is, it's all about usage. So, and I had an email about it today actually, and I need to write that down. I need to get back to them. So if somebody sends an influencer some clothes as gifting, and then that influencer takes a picture of the clothes and puts it on their Instagram, that picture, and this has happened to me, that picture can be used by the brand on their website, on their email banners, on like anywhere. They can use it anywhere, and they've basically got that image for free. And they could use it for years. Like there are no contracts. There's nothing that says this is this usage and that's that usage. And that is where an agency really takes care of you, because any job that you have, there's always like a mini contract, or like a confirmation booking, which states the exact usage, the exact months, the exact territories, the exact rate. And if it goes over that, then you charge more money. Whereas there are lots of girls out there that, it's very nice to get free gifting clothes, but at the same time, be very, very careful where your images go.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I got sent bra and knickers, took a picture of it, nice. And then that image ended up in Australia in a magazine, which I had no idea. The only reason I knew about it is because I have a friend in Australia. It was like, oh my God, this is you. And I was like, whoa, hang on a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then my agency got involved, and, we got paid for it. So it can be quite sneaky. And usage is key, but there's still not like the guidelines for how much you get to say post on Instagram is still it's a very grey area. No one really knows what to charge yet. I think it is getting better. I have a standard fee now that my agency has done for me, which makes it clearer. But you could have an influencer with, say, 1 million followers. You one Instagram post and you could get up to, I don't know, like 10, 15 grand.
Yeah.
Wow. It's crazy. It's crazy. So it really does vary. It really varies. But I guess in the actual modeling industry, you can get paid up to, I think for a day's work doing like an editorial shoot is about 200 quid. And then maybe a lookbook or e-commerce is maybe £1,000 a day. And then say catalogue, depending who it is, depending what the usage is. Because that's the thing, it's not just the brand and how much money they have, it's the usage. If you have a shoot and the usage is 5 years worldwide, obviously you put your prices up. But if it's like 1 month, on the web, then it's completely different.
Yeah.
So it is all about the usage. But it is a very lucrative career. If you work and you work well and you get rebooked, it can be a very lucrative career. But at the same time, obviously you are self-employed. And if you don't work, you don't get paid. There's no kind of like safety net of, if you don't work for 6 months, don't worry, the agency will substitute. They don't do that. So you have got to be very clever to obviously put money aside for tax and savings. My mum's an accountant, so she told me from a very young age to save and invest. And I was like, all right, God, but she was right. And I'm glad that I had that advice, because I did invest, as in, I bought my first property when I was 22. And by the time I was 7, I had 3 properties in London, which,
Wow.
I'm still, it's still helping me out now as a 40-year-old. Like it's still helping me now, like financially, it's helped me. And I want to thank my younger self for doing that, because it's, without that, I would just have a wardrobe full of designer bags.
Yeah.
Which probably my kids would chew on.
So what would be something that's not in the job description that you have to deal with?
Not in the job description.
Yeah, just something over the years that you've had to deal with, and you're like, I just never expected to do that. What do you
probably going into a casting and being told to, and this is normal, like don't think this is like seedy or anything, but kind of going into a casting again before COVID, and there'd be a boardroom of people, maybe 5 to 10 people, and they're not looking at you as like, oh, you're Louise. It's like you're a hanger. I want to know what my clothes would look like on you. And they asked, and if they're doing laundry, it's like, well, can we see your body? So you'd basically take your clothes off in front of 10 strangers and go, hiya. And then walk out, and it does feel weird when you go home going, I just got my kit off in front of 10 strangers today without any alcohol. As I said, you can't be shy in this industry. You can have morals, of course. I mean, obviously there'll be some girls that are like, I'm not doing that, and fine, you just won't get the job. It depends how much you want the job. But what else isn't there? I don't really know, really. I mean, if there was a job description, it would be, well, you need to be a bit of everything, to be honest. My God, a bit of everything. You just need to be really, you have to wits about you. You need to understand travel and how to travel alone. You just need to, and there's so many things that you learn along the way. Like one of the first times that I went abroad to travel alone, and I couldn't really understand where my gate was at the airport, missed my flight, things like that, which now I would never do that now. And even like not having, back in the day where you had mobile phones, but they didn't work in Europe, and you had to, your phone didn't work in Europe. I mean, can you imagine now? Yeah. And then your car, your driver doesn't arrive to pick you up from the airport. So you're basically stranded at the airport with no phone, no driver. You can't speak the language. oh my God, my credit card doesn't even work here. So literally like, wow, okay, I'm basically homeless in another country. I don't know what I'm doing. And that's really frightening.
Yeah.
But it all does work out in the end.
So how would you give advice to someone that's looking for an agency to help them push their career? What is something to look for in a really good agency?
A lot of agencies get obviously like wannabes all the time. And I think one of the best bit of advice is if you are serious about having an agency, don't email. You need to walk into the agent. All agencies have walk-in days. It might be different now because of COVID. But if you phone an agency and ask, when do you do walk-ins? They will say Monday from 11 until 12 and Wednesday from 3 until 4 or something. There's always time slots. Go in to an agency. You don't need to have professional pictures at all. Don't spend the money on it because the bookers can see if you've got potential or not. Go as natural as possible. They do not want to see a face full of makeup at all. They'll tell you to take it off. They'll literally give you a baby wipe and say, go to the loo, take it off and come back, which is embarrassing. So go as natural as you can. Confidence is huge. If you have a good personality, it goes so far. I mean, you could be the most beautiful person in the world, but if you've got a crap personality, then, forget it, basically. Yes, you're beautiful, but if you're going to get on set and be a sack of potatoes, then forget it. Also, it's very common, and it happened to me, to get rejected from agencies, and just because you're not right for one agency doesn't mean you're not right for the next. So if you do get rejected, keep going. And lots of top models got rejected from agencies and now are, some of the best in the world. And understand that rejection is normal and it happens to lots of people, and you cannot take it personally. And also, it doesn't matter now even if you have bad skin. I mean, there's a model that I follow on Instagram who has acne in a beauty editorial in a magazine, and she's incredible and she's so inspiring. So I think a lot of people, they're like, my skin's not like that, or you don't have to be a stick insect anymore. You can be yourself, basically. And it does help to have a social following. It does. I'm not going to lie. It does. So if you want to seriously be taken, if you want to be taken on by an agency, really work on your social media as well, if you haven't got that. But it takes time. Don't buy followers at all. It's obvious. So don't do that. And just go for it, really. Just go for it.
And would you still go into the industry knowing everything you know now?
Yeah.
Good to hear.
I would. I mean, I did have a bit of a dark period when I was 1997, 98. I did suffer with an eating disorder because I was told to lose weight continuously, and I didn't tell anybody. I was too embarrassed. I thought I was disgusting. I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my family. And I just had this silent battle with bulimia. And obviously with that, I lost all my confidence. I did lose the weight, but with that, I lost everything else. My hair was lifeless and my skin was bad and my teeth were yellow and I was constantly tired and I had nothing to offer. And so that was a dark time, but because the industry is so much more diverse now, I'm hoping, and I that doesn't happen as much anymore. And so because of that, it's a much nicer industry to be in. And if my daughter ever wants to get into modeling, I mean, she's done some kid modeling, but if she, as a teenager wants to get into modeling and she was, I'd be behind her. I'd say, if you want to do it, then go for it. And I'd make sure that she did it the healthy way, in, not just physically, but also mentally. You know, if anyone gave her crap on set, or if anyone bullied her, I'd want her to tell me. But when I was doing it, I was terrified, and I didn't want my agency to drop me. I was so afraid that they might drop me if I spoke up. So I just didn't. I just basically tortured myself to fit in, and in the end it didn't work. And the irony is, me being myself, being the size that I naturally am, actually is what made my career a career. Bonkers.
Listen, thank you so much for coming on, Louise. I really found it fascinating learning about the industry.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. It's been lovely. It's my first podcast in my new house, which is lovely.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Speaking of a podcast, you've actually got your own one, right?
I do, and I need to get back on that. Actually, I've had a bit of time off with. I couldn't do any podcasts during the first lockdown when the kids were off school, because where we used to live, and this is the reason why we've moved. We had an open plan kitchen living room area, which I was basically in that room for 3 months, whereas my husband was locked in our bedroom working. So I couldn't do a podcast because I had the kids the whole time screaming. And then when they went to bed, I just wanted to guzzle wine. So I didn't do any. So, but now that I've got in my new place, I'm currently in the office. Can you hear the kids?
No.
Fabulous.
No.
There you go. So I'm definitely going to do more podcasts now.
Well, brilliant. Thank you again so much for coming on. And where can people find you on social media? So it's Mama Still Got It with an underscore, and it's MAMA and then Still Got It _. And yeah, so I'm there, and that's the same handle for TikTok. And then from there you'll see my website and my agency, where my portfolio is, and my entire life, basically.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. I've loved it.
Our pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.